See that.
Wonderful, thanks Claire. So welcome everyone to this information session about the CME Change programme and the Northern Alliance plan to the implementation of the programme across the RIC. I'm just going to introduce myself and Jackie from the Northern Alliance team, and then I'll hand over to the CME team to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with the session. So if I haven't met you before, my name's Kirsty Campbell. I'm an Argyll and Bute Deputy Head Teacher, and I'm currently seconded to the Northern Alliance as the Wellbeing and Learning Lead Officer for Secondary. And from the Northern Alliance, we also have Jackie.
Hi folks, there's a few familiar faces on the call this afternoon, so nice to see you. I am in the Wellbeing and Learning team alongside Kirsty. I am the Digital Lead Officer and I have a substantive post in Aberdeen City. And I'll hand you over to Claire and the CME team to introduce themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Hello. My name. Are you getting some feedback? Try that again. Is that better? Okay, great. The classic mute on, mute off. I'm Claire Jennings and I'm the Project Officer for Young People at CME, and we'll be talking to you today about what CME Change is, and I will pass over to Jess.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a youth consultant with CME. I'll pass to Patty.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. I'm Patty Lozano Casal, and I'm Program Manager for Settings at CME. It's nice to see you all.
Great, thank you, everyone. So I think, Claire, are you going to take us away just now, or is it myself?
Yeah, I will kick us off. I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of what today's session is going to include. We are going to be recording it as well for other colleagues from across all the areas so they can watch it later as well. But we've got the session today to kind of give you more information about what CME Change is. For those that aren't familiar, CME is Scotland's national programme to tackle mental health, stigma and discrimination, and CME Change is our whole school approach to tackling mental health, stigma and discrimination. So you're going to hear from myself, Patty and Jess today to understand why schools take part in CME Change and what CME Change is. We'll share some impact, insight and learning from others who have taken part in CME Change, and also kind of hear a bit about next steps in terms of the kind of Northern Alliance implementation plan going forwards. We'll also have space for questions as well at the end too. So feel free to kind of pop those in the chat as well if you want to keep. We'll also have some time at the end to ask those as well. So I will hand over to Kirsty, who's going to, or Jackie, who's going to give a bit of information about what the Northern Alliance is.
Brilliant, thank you, Claire. So just if you're not familiar with the Northern Alliance is a regional improvement collaborative that covers the north of Scotland, so from as far south as Campbelltown to as far north as Shetland, and it's made up of those 8 local authorities, and it's the blue bit, the dark blue bit on the map there. And you can see some other statistics around the number of children and young people and the number of schools that we have across the region. And that is our vision statement there, and it's about, I suppose, our job is to sort of create those conditions for you to bring your collective expertise and knowledge and to share that across the RIC, so that we're removing sort of silo working and removing duplication and reinventing the wheel and trying to work together and collaborate to take forward different ideas and approaches. So that is what the Northern Alliance is, and we are really delighted to be able to be working alongside CME to take this forward as a regional implementation approach, which is the first time that has happened, and so it's really exciting for everyone that we're involved in this. So we can't wait to get started and work alongside you all as well. And I think Jackie is going to take us through the next slide. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsty. Yeah, so what you'll see on the screen there, wellbeing and learning can't be separated, and supporting that positive mental and emotional well-being is essential for learners to feel well and to learn well. And where learners feel respected and valued and listened to, we know that they will then thrive. And when learners feel that they are more involved in their learning and developing their skills to be good at learning and to be good at life. Mental health and well-being is a priority for everyone. working and living in the Northern Alliance, and a range of programmes and initiatives are already in place across the 8 local authorities to support mental health and wellbeing of learners and practitioners. Looking at our engagement before our phase 4 plan, this has emerged as a really strong theme across these engagement processes in relation to wellbeing and learning, and equality investments with reference being made to culture, with access to mental health resources with links to accreditation, building resilience, supporting our workforce, and the importance of collaborating to share the best practice and approaches. And that's really what's brought us all here today.
Great, thank you, Jackie and Christy, for that insight. I'm now going to hand over to Patty, who's going to give us a little bit more information about why CME Sea Change.
Yeah, so I am conscious that everyone here in this session will have probably seen all these statistics, but I thought it would be worth spending a bit of time really reflecting on this. So we know that 1 in 5 young people aged 7 to 16-year-olds have mental health difficulty, increasing to 1 in 4 for 17 to 19-year-olds. And this data is from 2022, so it takes into account the impact of, or some of the impact of COVID. We know that 50% of mental health problems are established by the age of 14 and 75% by the age of 24. We also know that 51% of young people wouldn't tell someone if they were struggling with their mental health. And this information comes from a census-wide poll that CME ran in 2021, again, taking into account some of the impact of COVID. 71% of young people reported having struggled with their mental health, not necessarily with a diagnosis, but just having struggled at that point. And 61% of young people didn't feel that or didn't think that teachers took them seriously when they said they were struggling with their mental health. So I guess as the National Programme to Tackle Mental Health Stigma and Discrimination, we want to change this by working with partners such as yourselves and the Northern Alliance to make sure that we build a capacity of schools to actually encourage more conversations, normalize conversations around mental health, and also have the confidence to support young people as well as adults in the education environment. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in CME, we talk about tackling stigma and discrimination, particularly stigma as foundational to any mental health improvement work. Schools are doing power of work to create mental healthy schools. But I guess it doesn't matter how much training you put in place, how much support mechanisms you put in place, how much counseling, if young people and also staff don't feel they can talk about their struggles, their mental health, and they're very unlikely to tap into those systems. So that's what this program is about. It's about removing the stigma, making sure that people feel listened to, valued, included, and respected, so they can actually ask for help when they feel they need some support and get the support they need when they need it, where they need it. Is our experience, as well as the evidence that we get from young people we work with, as well as the evidence base, that experiencing a mental health problem can be difficult for young people in terms of reaching out and having those conversations, and it can be quite difficult for them to find an adult they can trust. So this program of work allows young people to understand a bit more their struggles, how to have a conversation, what words they might be able to use, what resources are available, and as well as be reassured that there are people in the school, adults, that they can trust to have those conversations and ask for that kind of extra support. The approach that we have created is flexible, and it actually builds on I guess more than building on, it kind of uses co-production as an approach to bring back the power for both young people and adults in a way that they can work together to co-produce an action plan for the school. Often we hear the young people feel disempowered to make some contributions. So this approach is aiming at creating that level field for young people to also share their voice. It also provides an opportunity for all staff. Usually we hear that it tends to be people in teaching roles that actually have or have opportunities to contribute to this kind of initiative. So it's worth encouraging all staff in schools, from people in the canteens or people, the janitors as well, to be involved as much as possible. Not necessarily in the training sessions if that's not possible, but in the approach to producing the action plan, for example. And finally, I think it's worth just remembering that sometimes it's hard for young people to understand what's going on in their head or being able to explain how they feel. So this approach really helps them to come up with some of those words and really be reassured that that the school actually cares. Claire? Ah, there you go. Yeah, so that's exactly what I just said. And I think this is me, so I'm going to pass on to Jess. Jess will be sharing a bit of her kind of reflections as a young person, and also from a lived experience perspective.
Hi everyone. I suppose, yeah, as Patty said, I'm just gonna share a bit of my kind of lived experience of being a young person in school and kind of struggling with my mental health at the same time. So I originally started struggling quite a bit when I was 12 or 13, and I reached out to a couple of adults for support, but in that they were originally quite supportive, but struggled to kind of maintain that support. So I often was left hanging and not really getting the support that I deserved and needed. And it kind of got to the point where people were describing me as a burden and stuff like that, that it wasn't I wasn't really getting what I needed in that situation. And it was often because adults in my life just didn't really understand what to do or how to help, or they didn't have the experience or the expertise or whatever to kind of know what the best thing to do was to support me. And there were, like, it got to the point where I did have a few two really supportive adults in my life who were both teachers, and they kind of scooped me up a wee bit and were unbelievably supportive, that it was never questioned that they were there for me, and I could always go and speak to them, and we'd spend, yeah, such a long time. They'd either distract me or kind of let me talk through it, or whatever I needed, that they were just kind of there for me. Um, and I think in doing that and in finally finding people that were there to support me, I realised that actually something needed to change in the school system, and that adults weren't equipped to deal with young people. And as Patty said, like, young people don't understand what's going on in their head. It's so difficult to explain what's going on if you don't have the experience or the words to actually articulate that. It can be really difficult to get someone to listen to you. And even if you do have that, sometimes adults just aren't there, don't know what to do, etc. So yeah, so I started volunteering with CME when I was about 16, and kind of trying to tackle stigma in school, and I found it so unbelievably helpful to be in that area that other people were trying to do the same thing, and it was kind of this like build up of, yeah, we're actually making a difference. It was still really difficult to get my school behind any actual, I don't know, meaningful action, I suppose. But yeah, I've been a youth consultant for almost a year now, and I've seen kind of through volunteering and now being a youth consultant what a change this like CMAC change can do. Huh? Ironic change. Yeah, that actually is so meaningful to get these conversations going in schools, just for young people to know that they have someone to talk to, and that it's a kind of a subject that's not a taboo anymore, and that we can actually all talk about it, and that means that people have the language when they are really struggling. So yeah, I will pass that to Claire.
Great. Thank you so much, Jess, and for sharing your own experience there, and I think bringing that why to life, and for Patty to kind of go into a little bit more detail around kind of why CMEC change can what it can do for your schools and your areas as well. So we've kind of gone through the why. I'm now going to go into a little bit more around kind of the benefits, but also what CMEC Change actually is, because we've talked a lot about it already. So as mentioned, CMEC Change is a whole school approach to tackling mental health, stigma and discrimination, and we'll look at all areas of the school. This approach includes capacity building sessions for staff and pupils within the school, and that's for all staff who are kind of interested within that, and for senior pupils, so kind of S4 and upwards, it's aimed at. Following the capacity building sessions for staff and pupils, and these are separately delivered, so there's sessions for staff and there's sessions for pupils. They then come together to develop an action plan, which is what Patty kind of mentioned in that kind of co-production. That'll be staff and pupils working together to develop an action plan for their school that will help to tackle stigma and discrimination. And this will look at areas kind of across the school, including kind of leadership, the culture, kind of the ethos of the school, the wider school community, so connecting in with kind of wider kind of community initiatives, parents and carers as well within the school. Also, the action plan will explore kind of the learning and curriculum within the school too, as well as kind of more opportunities to enable young people's voices and that pupil voice too. We know that schools do different kind of action plans, and there's lots of things that are out there as well. So it's a very flexible and adaptable approach for your school, and that's kind of, it complements a lot of other kind of existing pieces of work and approaches that are existing within schools already. So this includes the current kind of professional learning resource for all school staff. If you're not aware of this, we'll definitely pop some links in the chat afterwards. But this is a great mental health and well-being resource, and we've actually kind of inputted into one of the first kind of sections on this around stigma and discrimination. So CMEC Change really kind of builds upon that kind of initial learning that's existing within the professional learning resource. CMEC Change has also been aligned with the Scottish Government's whole school approach framework for schools to support children and young people's mental health and wellbeing. So it does look at a lot of the same areas as well, and really making sure that there is anti-stigma activity happening within those areas too. And it also can help to for pupils to achieve the level 4 in mental health and wellbeing award as well upon kind of completion of the workbooks that we've got, which I'll kind of go into a little bit more detail shortly about. But as I say, it also kind of complements already existing frameworks and approaches such as Nurturing Schools, Rights Respecting Schools, Mentor and Violence Prevention Programme, and Compassionate and Connected Communities. So there's definite kind of links in with all of that as well too, which is really good too. CMEC Change has kind of been developed through a pilot over the last 2 years in collaboration, as Jess has kind of said, with kind of volunteers, some of our CME youth champs and consultants and partners. We worked with 2 local authority areas and some individual schools, so totaling 19 Scottish secondary schools. And over 400 S5, S6 pupils and school staff participated in the pilot. And it was delivered in a variety of ways online, mostly. That was because it was due during the pandemic. But we did also do some kind of in-person, and last year did a lot more in-person delivery as well. The approach kind of draws from CME's years of experience working with schools to tackle mental health, stigma and discrimination, and learning from what works. And it's really kind of building upon a lot of our existing resources that we've got, including the kind of very popular What's on Your Mind resource, which you might be familiar with as well. So here's some of the young people that have been kind of, involved in developing it and also in delivering it too. We couldn't do it without them. As I've said, the capacity building part of CMEC Change is the kind of part that we'll be focusing on within the Northern Alliance in terms of the sort of train the trainer approach. And this is kind of 3 linked interactive learning modules for senior pupils and staff designed to support the improvement of and knowledge of mental health, its impacts, and to open up conversations and tackle stigma and discrimination. So really normalising conversations around mental health. I've got the kind of learning outcomes for pupils just there. on down the side there too, but you can see that got the kind of an increased understanding of mental health stigma and discrimination, a greater awareness of the impact mental health stigma and discrimination can have, and the knowledge and ways in which we can reduce mental health stigma and discrimination across kind of our school, as well as the capacity and confidence in taking action to tackle stigma and discrimination. The staff and pupil sessions. So for the staff sessions, we've got 2. The staff module makes up kind of 2 sessions, and for the pupils, we've got 4 sessions. And we've designed all of the notes and the PowerPoints for that. They're all kind of self-facilitated notes, and that's what we'll be kind of using within the Train the Trainer to support yourselves and your colleagues within your areas to kind of build capacity and confidence to then deliver CMEC change in your respective schools and environments. We've also got, alongside the actual sessions, staff and pupil workbooks. These are really to kind of further deepen the kind of knowledge and understanding and some of the kind of theory as well that kind of supports the CMEC change approach. And also a real space for staff and people to maybe reflect kind of as well on their school and their environment too, and things that we'd like to see change, and things that are already happening that are working and really positive. The pupil workbooks are really key, as I say, to the SQA Mental Health and Wellbeing Award achievement as well too, because lots of the activities within that kind of meet those outcomes for the Level 4 award. We've also got kind of school action plan and guidance and templates as well too, which as I've already mentioned, kind of goes into different areas of the school, kind of considering the whole school approach. And we've got kind of lots of other kind of tools and resources to support that action planning, including kind of examples, and can learn from other schools as well. We've got a range of kind of facilitation guidance and support videos as well on our website. I'll show you the website kind of maybe after we've had questions as well, and kind of give you a bit of an overview of that, so you can kind of go away and have a little bit of a look at those different sessions as well, if you are interested too. But those sessions were kind of as part of kind of some of the pilot evaluation. We did find some of these highlights amongst others. I've just kind of pulled out a few here, but we found that following the completion of CMEC change, mental health literacy scores increased on average by 6 points amongst participating senior pupils, with the biggest increases in stigma and discrimination related questions. So really kind of highlighting again, meeting that learning outcome of kind of understanding what stigma and discrimination is, what that looks like, and the impact it can have. We also found that following the training, senior pupils were more likely to share their mental health problems and experiences with others, which is kind of clear evidence that, it's normalising those conversations around mental health, which is great. And also that 76% of pupils agreed that CMEC change pupils had CMEC change training had increased their understanding of ways to tackle stigma and discrimination. And so a big part of those sessions that we do with pupils and with staff is to think about kind of tangible activities that can be doable within their school communities that will help to tackle mental health stigma and discrimination. And what I've definitely learned from doing this over the years with schools is that so many schools are already doing a lot of this. They might just not kind of be aware that it's actually tackling stigma and discrimination, or it perhaps maybe needs kind of a little bit of a kind of a further focus on tackling stigma as well. But it's often building upon a lot of great work that's already happening as well. And also the 87.5% of pupils felt confident to share their learning as well, which was great, because there's definite a lot of the activities and things that come out of the action plan are maybe kind of senior pupils working with the younger year groups, or even kind of down into the primary schools as well. So that's really great to see too as well. So yeah, that's just some highlights there from the kind of evaluation. But I also wanted to just kind of share a little bit of learning and insight from others, because I think you've maybe heard enough from me talking about CMEC change. So I thought I'd share just some quotes and some learning from the other local authorities and schools who have taken part. So the first one here is from Emma Large. I'll just let people take a wee bit of time to read that. So I think that quote from Emma at Loch End just really highlights again that opportunity for pupil voice being involved in the shaping of these action plans, and actually having this kind of this forum to express how they feel and what could make a difference within their school as well, which is great. I've also got kind of a few points here as well, just from a slightly different perspective, but this is from learning from North Ayrshire and from the kind of lead that was helping to roll this out across the secondary schools there, and just kind of some of the kind of key learning that was good kind of to share, I thought, for people in that position on the call today. So lead person in the authority has been instrumental in connecting all the links and partners, and has promoted consistency across all schools and been influential in embedding change across school community. So having that person link in with all the others, with all the schools, and ensuring that kind of rollout. Also dedicating time through the school week to enable seniors and staff to come together and focus on action plans, empowers those involved to make change sustainable. And there's lots of different ways that schools are doing this. Doesn't need to be kind of always kind of once a week, but there's definitely is kind of that importance of finding that time and protecting that time to work on those action plans, and having a group of senior students and staff working together on that as well. I think also definite learning from North Ayrshire is just kind of the further learning that comes from it as well, such as the accreditation for the Mental Health and Wellbeing Award, which is kind of useful for those future pathways for young people. And also kind of, again, giving senior pupils leadership for the work that they've done with CME leads to embedding supportive structures in the school environment, and kind of helping for more kind of peer-to-peer opportunities across the school as well. We know that the importance that role models can have, especially in tackling mental health stigma and discrimination, and this can, CMEC Change can really help with that as well. And last, kind of just one quote here from Jackie. It just kind of nicely kind of encapsulates the the importance that kind of CMEC Change can take in terms of creating that stigma-free environment for all to thrive. And I've also just got like a little kind of example here from Scottish Borders, which was another one of the local authorities that we worked with. And this was following the CMEC Change training in the pilot as well. Oh, it's gone already. This was their mental health ambassadors from different schools who took part kind of receiving their awards, and they've all gone on to kind of then work on their action plans for their schools as well. So I was recently at an event in Selkirk High School, which they'd organised for parents and carers, which was off the back of their action plan, and kind of giving more information to parents and carers from across the community to learn more about mental health, stigma and discrimination, and also kind of existing support in the community as well, which was really great to see. So yeah, that's a little bit just kind of around some of the learning and impact from others, and there's more of that on our website too, which I'll kind of share with you as well. But now just to kind of focus a little bit more on the train the trainer approach before I hand back to Kirsty and Jackie. So and we'll go into a little bit more details about that plan. But myself and Jess and other colleagues within CME will be heading north, which I'm very excited about, although it is sunny in Glasgow today. I didn't put that in the chat box. But yeah, we are going to be heading north in kind of May time, and then into June. And we'll be delivering kind of train the trainer sessions with yourselves and kind of school staff practitioners from across the 8 local authorities. We're doing this in 2 parts. So we're first going to have a kind of 3-hour online session, which will cover a lot of the kind of key knowledge and information. So we'll go into quite a bit more detail than I have done today around kind of the CMEC Change and actually the specifics, those kind of the learning outcomes and the different kind of sessions that exist for both the pupil sessions and the staff sessions. And then we'll have a one-day in-person session. So that's when we'll be heading north to help build the confidence of all the local authority leads, school staff, supporting practitioners to deliver CMEC change in your respective schools as well. So the 3-hour session will be happening on May 3rd. I think that's going to come up on a slide shortly too. And then we've got different dates for these one-day in-person sessions. But it'll just give you an opportunity to become a lot more familiar with the resources, build confidence, and also most importantly, we'll have conversations about what might come up in these sorts of sessions. And share that learning from other schools, and also just from the kind of wider anti-stigma practice that CME does, and so many other partners as well, just to kind of learn from that too. So we're really looking forward to working with yourselves. And after the kind of train the trainer approach, and I know Jackie and Kirsty will go into a little bit more detail about this, but we are this year going to be establishing some peer learning networks for both school staff and for pupils. So any kind of senior pupils that will be in kind of maybe mental health ambassador roles, or kind of working on the action planning, will be able to connect up with other pupils and other staff from across Scotland. So other schools that will be taking part in CMEC. The challenges, some of the barriers, and to also kind of learn from each other, connect, and kind of share different information, receive kind of any further information as well from CME in the way of kind of resources and things that are happening too. So all schools will be offered that opportunity to become part of that as well, which we're looking forward to getting started on as well too. So I could carry on talking about this for a very long time, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to pass back to Kirsty and Jackie, who are just going to go into a little bit more detail about the implementation plan.
Thank you, Claire. I will kick off and then I'll hand over to Jackie. So hopefully you've already received this information in the proposal document, but I will also pop that into the chat for you before we leave this meeting in case you haven't. But I suppose what we're looking for now is for, if we've got local authority leads here on the call, we're looking for you to go away and identify or to get the secondary schools within your local authority bought into this approach, and for the schools to identify who is going to be taking this forward as a member of staff within the school. And we would probably recommend that it's more than one lead per school, because it just means that it's more sustainable if we've got more trainers, that in case a member of staff leaves or moves on or so on, that is good if it's more than one person. I was actually, when I worked in Dunoon Grammar School, we were one of the pilot schools that had gone through the programme, and I have to say that the school just found it so such a brilliant programme to be part of, but actually just joined the dots between so many of the other things that we were doing. And we had groups of staff coming forward who maybe weren't in promoted positions, or so we had like our just some of our class teachers had come and done the training. We also had some of our support staff, some of our cleaning staff, and so I think it's important that it is a whole school approach. So actually, you know, it is flexible in terms of finding out who's going to lead it within the school, but in terms of who's going to be involved in the training after that, you know, it's open to everyone, and I think that's really was what kind of was the key thing for us in Dunoon, that it was the whole thing, and led on to like community involvement and everything else after that. So the first part of the Train the Trainer is going to be like all of the information, so that a sort of webinar type style session with time for discussion, and that will take place online on the 3rd of May, and that is a morning session. And there obviously will be breaks built into that as well. And we would ask that that is for whoever the trainers are going to be within each school. So that is open for the local authority leads. We'll be there ourselves to go through the training again, and also for whoever's going to be taking it forward within the school. In some of the local authorities, this hasn't been teaching staff. So it's been CLD staff. We've had active schools have been taking this forward in other local authorities. So it might be that that is appropriate for you. Also, I think it's important to say that quite often the pastoral team haven't been involved in this. So it's been sort of given to another group of staff. So it's taken it away from the senior leadership team or from the pastoral team, who are quite often involved a lot in a lot of training. So that's also an option. Then over the course of May and June, we've got our in-person, and we are coming to each local authority to do these events. The venues have still to be confirmed, but they will be all-day events, and the exact dates for those training events will be in the proposal that I'll share with you in a moment, and that will be taking place over the course of May and June, and we're very excited to be able to bring that to each of the local authorities that are involved. And I'll just hand over to Jackie, who'll explain the next wee bit.
Thanks, Kirsty. If somebody can pop us on to the next slide, that would be fab. That's great. Thanks very much. So obviously from that, what we're looking to where this builds to next in June 2023, you'll get to a point where following the training, school leads will recruit any interested staff and pupils. And then that will lead us up to the beginning of the new session in August. So between August and October, the local authority leads and the school leads, whoever they happen to be, as Kirsty said, will deliver that staff training to interested staff and pupils within your setting. And then moving round to November 2023.
Sorry, just to see that if we're there as well to support that. So where schools are maybe looking for any support with delivering the training to the staff and pupils within the school, then we are there on hand to be able to support that where necessary.
Thanks, Kirsty. Yes, we're not just going to do the training and then send you off on your merry way and leave you to it. So as Kirsty says, we'll all be around to support that as required. And then by November 2023, the school leads will bring all these trained pupils and staff back together to co-create the individual action plan for each school, which, as we've said, and as kind of Claire's talked about as well, this will be very bespoke for your setting, so it won't be a one-size-fits-all. And then November 2023, round to May 2024, that kind of group of pupils and staff taking forward these actions as identified within their plans to reduce stigma and mental health throughout. Oh, we've lost the slide deck there, Claire. There we go. That was the last point there, just in case anybody else is kind of taking notes of what's on there. But yeah, just trying to reduce that stigma and discrimination in relation to mental health.
And just to say as well, this can be completely flexible. So, for example, in Argyll and Bute, we're working closely with the educational psychology team and the local authority to try and bring this in line with some of the other things that they're working on. So, for their whole school nurturing approach and for their attendance procedures as well that they're rolling out across the local authority, this will just become part of that overall action plan for the school. So it's not going to be something that's got an extra. It will just be integrated into their other action plans. This could be similar if you're taking forward rights, respect in schools or whole school nurturing approaches or whatever it is that your school are working on. It can be incorporated into those plans. And from a Dunoon perspective, what I would say is that tackling stigma and discrimination in relation to mental health impacted on so much more than that in terms of the culture and ethos and our partnerships and the community. So you will more than likely already be doing lots already, and it's just about making those small tweaks to things that you're already doing just to make them more explicit. Are we handing back to you, Claire, now?
Oh, you're on mute there, Claire.
Sorry about that. The timing of that end bit of my part and the buzzer going in my flat was impeccable. And sorry about the slide deck, Jackie. I've only got one more to show, and that's just about getting in touch, which is my email is there as well. Too, if you've got any kind of specific questions kind of about See Me, See Change, as well. But just to kind of echo what has been said, we're very excited about this opportunity and working and taking CMEC Change to all the northern local authorities. I was just recently in Orkney at the youth conference, and we had an absolutely amazing time, and it was definitely clear that there was lots of things that were already happening in Orkney. So there's just some great stuff to build upon too, and I'm sure that'll be the same across lots of different areas as well. So I will stop sharing my screen, and what we'll do is we'll just have a bit of time for kind of any questions as well, unless Kirsty or Jackie have got anything else to add in there. No.
I think we will just stop the recording now just before we go into questions.
Yeah, it just means folk can feel free to ask the questions. So that's it. That should be it.